Have you ever lost someone you were sure was your soulmate and wondered if you just ruined the best thing that could have ever happened to you? What if I told you that the pain of losing them wasn't proof they weren't your soulmate, but proof that they were? See, we're taught to measure soulmates by how long they stay, how perfect they make our lives feel, and how much they match our idea of forever. But what if the real soulmate is the one who comes into your life, turns it upside down, and leaves you changed in ways you can't undo? Here's the hard truth. Without understanding the real nature of soulmates, it's easy to get stuck, replaying memories, nursing resentment, or waiting for them to come back. Some people stay in that place for decades, not realizing that the connection already did what it was meant to do. In this video, we're going to explore a deeper, more liberating way to understand soulmates. One rooted in soul contracts, shadow work, and the dynamics of your soul group. Because when you see the bigger picture, you'll realize you didn't lose them at all. You completed something with them, something you might have planned long before you were even born. And once you understand that, the grief can finally shift into something far more powerful. The idea that there's one perfect person out there for you, your other half, is one of the most persistent beliefs in our culture. Movies, novels, and love songs feed us the same image over and over. Two people destined to find each other, fall in love, and live happily ever after. It's beautiful, but it's also a very narrow lens for something as vast and complex as the soul. The roots of this romantic ideal go way back. In ancient Greece, Plato's Symposium introduced the story of humans being split in two by the gods, forever searching for their missing half. Centuries later, poets and playwrights wrapped this idea in drama and longing. Think Shakespeare's star-crossed lovers or the great literary romances of the 19th century. Modern media simply put a glossy finish on the same tale. The problem isn't that romance is bad, it's that the one perfect match story can trap us. It makes us believe that if a relationship ends, it means the connection wasn't real or meant to be. That belief alone can cause years of unnecessary pain. A broader truth exists. Soulmates aren't just romantic partners. They can be friends who awaken courage in you, mentors who show up at a critical turning point, or even strangers whose brief presence alters your path. Sometimes the most profound soulmate connection lasts a single afternoon. Sometimes it spans decades. The duration isn't the point, the transformation is. This shift in perspective is key because not every soulmate is meant to stay. In fact, some are specifically meant to leave. They may arrive in your life with the sole purpose of helping you grow in a certain direction, and once that growth is complete, the connection naturally dissolves. This isn't a failure, it's a sign that the soul contract, the deeper purpose of your meeting, has been fulfilled. And here's where it gets even more liberating. When you let go of the forever or it wasn't real mindset, you can start to honor every meaningful connection for what it truly was. You can appreciate the role someone played without clinging to the idea that they had to remain in that role forever. Romanticizing permanence is what keeps people trapped. Seeing soulmates as purposeful encounters, whether brief or lifelong, allows you to celebrate the completion instead of mourning the ending. It frees you from chasing what's already complete and opens you to recognizing new soul connections that may be waiting right in front of you. By expanding this definition, you can start to recognize that some of your greatest teachers, healers, and allies may not have looked anything like the romantic ideal you once imagined. When you begin to see soulmates as purposeful encounters rather than forever people, the next question naturally arises. So, how do these connections form in the first place? This is where the work of Dr. Michael Newton, a pioneer in spiritual regression therapy, offers an incredible lens. Newton's research, drawn from thousands of case studies with people under deep hypnosis, revealed a fascinating pattern. We don't incarnate randomly. Instead, we belong to soul groups, recurring clusters of souls who travel through lifetimes together, playing different roles each time. Think of a soul group as your cosmic family. In one life, someone from your group might be your parent. In another, they might be your friend, business partner, or even a brief acquaintance who shifts your direction with one conversation. The connection isn't defined by the form it takes. It's defined by the soul-level bond and the lessons you've agreed to explore together. Within a soul group, there are different roles souls take on. Companions. These are the steady, grounding presences in your life. They bring comfort, stability, and a sense of belonging. They often stay for many years, and their role is to help you feel supported as you navigate change. Catalysts. These souls challenge you, push your boundaries, and spark transformation through friction. They're the ones who inspire you to take leaps you might never have taken without their influence. Shadow teachers. These are the most misunderstood roles. A shadow teacher's purpose is to bring your deepest wounds to the surface so they can finally heal. They may trigger feelings of abandonment, betrayal, or rejection, not out of cruelty, but because that's the fastest way to wake you up to parts of yourself you've ignored. According to Newton's findings, before you're born, you meet with your soul group in what he called a pre-life planning session. Imagine a gathering in a space beyond time, where you and your soul companions discuss the life ahead. You decide together on the major themes, challenges, and emotional milestones. You agree who will play which role, and sometimes the ones who love you most volunteer for the hardest parts, including being the one you'll lose. A helpful metaphor is to picture your soul group as an acting troupe. Every lifetime is like a new play. The same actors show up, but in different costumes, playing different characters. In one play, someone might be your loving spouse. In another, they might be the one who walks away to set you on your path. The story changes, but the connection between the actors, the souls, remains. When you understand soul groups in this way, the loss of a soulmate becomes part of a much larger narrative. It's not the random heartbreak it might appear to be. It's a scene in a carefully crafted story your souls created together, one designed to move you toward your highest growth. Now listen, if soul groups are the cast, then soul contracts are the scripts you agree to follow before stepping onto the stage of life. These contracts aren't written in ink, but in intention. They're spiritual agreements you make with other souls to meet under certain circumstances at certain points in your life to help each other grow in specific ways. Some of these contracts are soft and gentle, a friend who reminds you of your worth, a mentor who guides you to your calling. Others, however, are forged in fire. These are the ones we make with shadow teachers. A shadow teacher is not your enemy, though it may feel that way when you meet them. Their purpose is to awaken something in you that can't be reached through comfort or ease. They do this by triggering the deepest, rawest wounds in your being: abandonment, betrayal, rejection, loss. It's not about cruelty. It's about catalyzing the kind of growth that only comes through facing your shadows head-on. Here's the reversal that can change everything. The villain in your story may actually be the soul who loves you enough to take on the role you'd resist most. In your pre-life planning session, they might have been the one to say, "I'll do it. I'll be the one who leaves," so they'll finally face the part of themselves they've been running from. When a shadow teacher enters your life, the pain they stir up is not random. It's precise. It's aimed at the hidden places you've buried out of sight. The beliefs you absorbed in childhood, the fears you never spoke aloud, the self-worth you've kept locked away. By confronting you with loss or conflict, they bring those parts into the light where you can finally work with them. This is the essence of shadow work, the process of reclaiming the disowned, unconscious parts of yourself. Without the trigger, the shadows often stay buried. With it, you have the choice to transform them into strength, wisdom, and wholeness. In this light, a breakup, a betrayal, or the painful exit of a soulmate is not a cosmic mistake. It's the fulfillment of a promise made on a level deeper than the mind can grasp. That doesn't mean you won't grieve. Grief is a natural part of integrating the experience. But it does mean you can begin to see the loss as purposeful rather than punitive. Shadow teachers don't come into our lives to destroy us. They come to dismantle the illusions we've built around ourselves so we can stand in a more authentic version of who we are. And when the contract is fulfilled, they step away, sometimes suddenly, sometimes after a long unraveling, leaving you with the very transformation you agreed to receive. When a shadow teacher exits your life, the space they leave behind can feel unbearable at first. It's as if the ground you were standing on has vanished and you're left grasping for something solid. But that emptiness is not just a void, it's fertile ground. Loss forces a confrontation with identity. Who are you without them? Without the roles you played in their presence, the routines you shared, the way they mirrored you? In many ways, their departure signals the death of an old self, the version of you who existed before their presence reshaped you. And as painful as it is, this death is necessary for the birth of a more aligned self. In alchemy, transformation begins with breaking down the old form so something new can emerge. The same is true here. The grief you feel isn't a sign that you're broken. It's the fire that melts down the outdated parts of you, creating space for something stronger to take shape. This shift doesn't happen overnight. At first, grief may dominate the landscape. Memories feel sharper, absence feels louder. But slowly, something begins to change. The pain that once consumed you starts to feel less like a wound and more like a doorway. You start to notice what you've gained: strength, clarity, boundaries, a deeper self-understanding. Reaching this point is often a sign that the soul contract has been completed. Certain patterns in your relationships may stop repeating. The lessons you once resisted now feel woven into who you are. Longing gives way to a quiet acceptance, and with that acceptance comes gratitude, not for the pain itself, but for the way it shaped you. Gratitude doesn't erase the memory of the loss, it reframes it. It allows you to look back and see the role they played without the ache of unfinished business. You can acknowledge they were exactly who they were meant to be for me, for exactly as long as they were meant to be here. This is emotional alchemy, the process of transforming grief into wisdom and loss into liberation. The heartache becomes the evidence of something sacred, a deep soul connection that fulfilled its purpose. You carry the essence of that connection forward, but it no longer chains you to the past. Sometimes reflecting from this place brings unexpected clarity. You may see how their departure pushed you toward choices you'd been avoiding, a career shift, a move, a new relationship with yourself. You may realize that the love you thought was lost is still alive, but in a different form, as courage, self-respect, or an unshakable sense of your own worth. In this way, losing a soulmate isn't the end of the connection. It's the completion of a chapter that was always meant to transform you, even if you couldn't see it at the time. And transformation, once it's taken root, cannot be undone. Even when grief softens into gratitude, something remains, a quiet sense that the bond isn't truly gone. It's not just memory or sentimentality. It's a felt presence, like an invisible thread still tying you together. That's because on a soul level, the connection never ended. It simply shifted form. According to Michael Newton's research, the relationships we have in this lifetime are part of a much longer journey. Between incarnations, members of a soul group reunite in a non-physical realm. There, they review their most recent lives, what worked, what didn't, what lessons were learned, and what still needs attention. It's a process of reflection without blame, where even the most painful chapters are understood as part of the shared plan. From this higher perspective, a loss here is simply a role change there. The one who left you in this life might be the one who welcomes you home in the next. The soul that played the shadow teacher this time could return as a nurturing companion in another lifetime, balancing the energy between you. Some bonds are so deep that they span multiple lifetimes in different forms: parent and child, teacher and student, lovers, or even brief strangers whose paths cross in a way that alters destiny. Each encounter adds another layer to the shared story, weaving together a history far richer than what can be seen in a single lifetime. This understanding can bring a profound kind of peace. It reframes goodbyes as temporary, not permanent. While the human heart still feels the ache of separation, the soul knows there is a larger arc in which you will meet again. Sometimes that reunion happens in dreams or moments of unexpected synchronicity, where you feel their energy as vividly as if they were standing beside you. Other times, it happens in the subtle ways life aligns to remind you of their presence: a song, a phrase, a scent, a sudden feeling of warmth. And just as the bond continues beyond this life, so too does the learning. Agreements made in the non-physical often extend forward, shaping how you meet in the future. If a lesson wasn't fully learned, you may choose to meet again under new circumstances to finish the work. If a cycle has been completed, you might reconnect simply for joy or support in another lifetime. Recognizing this continuity changes how you carry the relationship. Instead of holding on with desperation, you hold it with trust. Instead of fearing you'll never see them again, you acknowledge that your souls are simply walking separate paths for now. This perspective doesn't erase the pain of missing them, but it dissolves the finality of loss, allowing you to honor the connection without being bound by it. And in that space of trust, you begin to live more fully, not as someone who has lost their soulmate, but as someone whose journey with them is still unfolding in ways yet to be revealed. When you strip away the myths and the longing for forever, what you're left with is a truth both humbling and beautiful. Soulmates are not defined by how long they stay, but by how deeply they change you. Some walk beside you for decades. Others arrive like a storm, alter the landscape of your life, and then move on. Both are equally real. Both are equally sacred. If you've lost someone you believe to be your soulmate, it's tempting to see it as the end of something precious. But from a soul perspective, their leaving is not proof that they were the wrong person. It's proof that they were the exact person you needed for the chapter you were in. They played their role fully, and when the contract between you was complete, they stepped away so you could grow into what comes next. This is the hardest part to accept, because the human heart clings to what it loves. Yet the soul understands that love is not possession, and connection is not measured in permanence. The very pain you feel is evidence of the depth of your bond. You don't grieve strangers, you grieve those who have touched the core of who you are. Seeing your loss in this way doesn't mean you bypass the grief or pretend the hurt never happened. It means you choose to honor it. You allow the experience to reveal what it was meant to teach you: resilience, boundaries, self-love, the courage to live authentically. You acknowledge that without this loss, you might never have stepped into the version of yourself you are becoming now. And perhaps most healing of all, you release the idea that they are gone forever. You carry their imprint in your growth, their presence in your memories, and their essence in the unbroken thread that connects your souls beyond time. Whether or not your paths cross again in this life, the love you shared has already done its work, shaping you into someone more whole, more awake, more capable of love than before. So if you find yourself missing them today, remember, they weren't the wrong soulmate. They were the one who loved you enough to play the hardest role. They walked away, not because the bond was shallow, but because it was so deep that it demanded transformation. The question now isn't why they left. The question is, who have you become because they were here? And how will you carry that gift forward?